Welcome back to the Social Web TV, the internet TV show that answers the question, who owns your data, with these two simple words, you do. And we are on special location with special guest. We're at Yahoo with Alan Tom, and can you see this huge sign back here? It's really a proof of the big commitment Yahoo has to going open. And there's a lot going on this week. In fact, actually, before we get into this week, last week, Yahoo, with the YOS project that we talked about a few weeks ago with Cody Sims, started to roll out some of this stuff. So can you tell us a little bit about what actually went out in the wild last week?
Yeah, so last week we launched the new Yahoo Universal Profile, which is your profile that follows you all across the Yahoo network and hopefully all across the web moving forward. So we launched Yahoo Profiles. It also has a Yahoo Social Graph, and there'll be a new APIs which will be about to launch very soon, and they'll be all using open authentication APIs, including OAuth and OpenID. So that's what's in store.
And as we've talked about before, we think this is a really big play, not just for Yahoo, but for the internet at large. This notion of going from walled garden to a new model where the sites are a hub to interconnect with the rest of the web. We're seeing that now hit the #1 destination site on the internet, a massive portal, Yahoo, so that's really cool. And then this week, kicked off with something really cool on Monday, an event that Alan organized, which was a UX summit for OpenID, OAuth, and the OpenStack, where UX, of course, means user experience. So, Alan, what was the thought process that led to that? Why did we end up bringing people together around that?
So Yahoo launched our OpenID provider earlier this year, mostly as an experiment to get experience in this new open identity space. So we launched it knowing that there are still some usability issues with OpenID. So for instance, OpenID was first initially designed for bloggers and for relatively technical folks who felt comfortable identifying themselves using an URL. So at least when Yahoo launched, most OpenID reliant parties allowed users to type in their URL to identify themselves. And the sign-in process is a bit different than how users, or how most mainstream users were used to. But we wanted to launch it to get some experience in that space. And based on what we've learned since launching, we've found out that many mainstream users do in fact have some difficulty trying to sign in with an OpenID. And we've been talking with other potential OpenID providers as well. So other very large identity providers are just about to launch an OpenID service, which is super exciting. But before we launch, or before the other providers launch, we wanted to make sure that we have a consistent user experience across the web. So sites which accept OpenID can do so in a consistent manner, regardless of what OpenID provider the user uses to sign in with.
So I understand there were a couple of usability studies, one done by Yahoo, one done by Google, which helped really make clear that there was some of this user confusion. And as I understand it, this summit, which ended up being like, I don't know, 50 people from 10 different companies or more, it wasn't really originally conceived of as a big summit, is that right?
No, it definitely was not originally conceived to be a big summit. So originally the idea was just for Yahoo, MySpace, and Google to get together with a few other close friends to figure out exactly how the user experience should be. But then as word got out, other folks in the OpenID community also wanted to join in, and since this is an open specification and open protocol, we do definitely encourage community support and community interaction.
Yeah, so others that joined that day, I know Microsoft was there. As I wrote about in a guest post on TechCrunch, Facebook was there, and I knew that Facebook had been invited, but I was still not only surprised that they were there, but they sent 4 of their heavy hitters from the Facebook Connect team. And I was also really surprised that the first session of the day was actually a walkthrough of Facebook Connect. Was that something that
really
planned
exciting.
early on, or?
Certainly, I was not actually expecting Facebook to come to the summit. So definitely, we were very excited to see Facebook there. So they've definitely proved that there's definitely some usability improvements that can be done on the OpenStack, I think. So Facebook Connect, again, solves many of the same issues that the OpenStack is trying to solve. And definitely they've put a lot of thought into the user experience there. And they put on a really good talk as to their thought process in designing Facebook Connect. Certainly, it is a very thoughtful and well-designed experience, I think. So.
Yeah, and I think what's happening now, I like to say Facebook right now may be the best thing that ever happened to OpenID, because with Facebook Connect, we can all get a little taste of what the experience should be for the end-to-end open stack, which is basically walk up to a website you've never used before and to jump in, join, and participate instead of generating a new username password pair and having to upload a photo and fill out a profile and import an address book and friend. Instead, with a couple of clicks, all of a sudden you're interacting with the site. And that promise has certainly been the promise behind OpenID, OAuth, portable contacts, all brought together. So I think what's going to happen now, and at the summit there really was at least one action item taken out of it, which was let's form a working group of folks to actually tackle mocking up user interface, user experience screens for OpenID in the OpenStack.
Yeah, so OpenID, like I said earlier, was definitely designed for a more sophisticated or advanced user than the mainstream audience that Yahoo typically serves. So moving forward, based on the results of the OpenID Summit, I think we are going to move forward with trying to simplify and streamline the user experience to make it that much simpler for users, hopefully to either click on a button or at least very simply just to be able to identify themselves to a new site without having to register and set up a password and a profile all over again. So again, this makes it a lot easier for users to take an existing identity that they already have and move on to other sites, taking with them their data, their contacts, their social graph, and so on.
Yeah, and Plaxo, of course, has been a big part of this because we're in OpenID, there's the concept of identity providers and then relying parties. Relying parties is essentially a site that accepts OpenID, and Plaxo is really one of the larger ones of those. So we've lived some of the early adopter pain and are very excited to work as part of that group to bring about a better user experience. Any other interesting things coming out of Yahoo that we can talk about today?
So definitely, at least traditionally within Yahoo, Yahoo do not quite have so many APIs for users to share or export their data or to sync their data across Yahoo and other sites. So at least with the new YOS or Yahoo Open strategy, we are firmly committed with the idea that users own their data. They should always have APIs available to sync their data with other sites. Therefore, again, since users own their data, any data which the user gives to Yahoo belongs to the user, and the user should have the right to take that data with them or to share it as they see fit. So that's a fundamental change to the Yahoo culture.
Yeah, and I think there's probably no company more committed to open than Yahoo. And I look back at this sign; it's really kind of a cool collection of. We got logos for OpenID, Open Social, OAuth up the top.
Right up there. So Yahoo definitely is moving forward an open platform for developers to build applications on top of. So we have a huge existing user base. So we have well over 300 million active users on Yahoo, many of whom keep their data on Yahoo. And certainly, since the data belongs to the user, we do want to enable users to be able to take their data that they have on Yahoo and use it on other sites, as long as users are informed as to what exactly that means.
Yep. And I know there's still been skepticism out there about OpenID, but when I look at a mainstream player like Yahoo hosting a summit that brings together other mainstream players like Google, MySpace, among others, and Facebook, if we can't all figure this out, then shame on us.
Well, certainly there's lots of incentives for everyone to figure this out, because I believe this actually makes the pie that much bigger for everyone involved. So certainly for both for identity providers and also for relying parties, it just makes everything that much better. So this is definitely a win-win situation for everyone involved, which is why we're all able to get together to try to sort all of this out.
Cool. Well, thanks for hosting the summit. Thanks for being a guest on the show, and giving us access to the campus and letting us see the big sign. One other thing this week, I know we talked last week that the Netflix API that Plaxo was about to roll out support for that, and Joseph did indeed get that up and running, so you can check that out if you're a Plaxo user and a Netflix user. You can now connect up Netflix and have your ratings get shared into the Pulse stream, and you can of course choose whether to share that with family, friends, or business, or any combination of that. Cool, well, it's another big week for Open, and excited to see what happens. It looks like this 2008 is going to go out with a bang. So please join us next week for another exciting episode of the Social Web TV.